Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Factor-Inwentash Faculty of Social Work MSW Info Session here at the University of Toronto. My name is Terry Gardner. I'm the Manager of Diversity, Equity, and Student Experience.
And I'm Angela Umbrello, the Administrative Coordinator for Admissions and Programs here at the faculty. We want to welcome all of you for participating today in our information session.
So I will be sharing information about our program, and then Angela will be sharing information about the admission requirements and process. But we always like to start off by offering you a warm welcome and bringing regards on behalf of our Dean, Faye Mishna, and our Associate Dean Academic, Shelley Craig, both of whom are always very excited for individuals and potential students who are thinking about social work, and in particular social work here at the Factor-Inwentash Faculty of Social Work. We are going to close the camera at this point so that we can move on with the presentation using our slideshow. All of the information that we share as part of today's session can be found in our MSW program booklet. This booklet is available on our website, and we'll share a link to it so that you can review it if you have not already done so at the end of the session. So starting us off, I promise you this is not a trick question, just checking in, and then we'd like you to start thinking about what comes to mind first off for you when you see those words together, social and work, social work. What are some of the first things that you think about or maybe aware of in regards to social work? One definition that we find very helpful comes from the Canadian Association of Social Workers. And it says, social work is a profession concerned with helping individuals, families, groups, and communities to enhance their individual and collective well-being. Now, profession is really key. One of the things that indicates is that there's very specific knowledge, training, and skills that go into being a social worker. Social workers also help individuals. A lot of people think about counseling as something that social workers do. They work with families and groups, but they also work with communities. You'll find social workers at every level of our society. One of the first places many people share with us that they think about social workers being part of our society is working with children and families in the child welfare system, maybe at the Children's Aid Society. Social workers are present in every unit of every hospital, helping people to navigate what can be a very complex system. Social workers work with seniors, they work with individuals across the lifespan, and they also work with specific communities. So you'll see the logo for Anishinaabe Health, which is a community organization that specifically provides mental health supports to Indigenous members of our community. And at the center is the symbol for the Ontario government. Social workers are involved in developing policy at all levels of government, helping to form regulations that will shape the way we as a society live and interact. The University of Toronto, of course, is the oldest school or university in Canada. And the Factor-Inwentash Faculty of Social Work is the oldest school of social work. Having been founded in 1914, we celebrated our 100th year anniversary in 2014. The focus of the university is the development of new knowledge. The faculty here at the Factor-Inwentash Faculty of Social Work is exemplary of the university in both the quality and the quantity of research or new knowledge that is developed by our faculty members. We have faculty members who are working on issues and developing knowledge in areas that span the range of human experience. For example, we have one faculty member who is currently working on developing an understanding of how our society will respond to an HIV vaccine. We have faculty members who are working on issues of separation and divorce. How does that impact the splitting parents? But how does that also impact the children who might be involved in this situation? We have faculty members who are looking at immigration experience and immigration policy. The new knowledge that is developed in our faculty informs the way our professors teach and support the learning of our students. The focus of this faculty is research for practice, not necessarily for students developing research on their own, but of understanding the research that is available and learning how to apply the knowledge in the lives of their clients. We know that there is wonderful knowledge and research and evidence that is available. But if social workers don't have access to that information, they don't understand it, and they can't apply it, they're not going to really be very useful. One of the things that's key to keep in mind is that all social workers are trained and expected to engage clients in what's called informed consent. So that means we have to understand the evidence that's available so we can explain to our clients all of the potential benefits and all of the potential risks of any intervention, even just talking to us. We can't have that conversation if we don't fully understand the evidence so that we can explain it to the client so that they can decide if they want to engage in an intervention. Of course, at the university and at the faculty, we offer a full and holistic experience. And so other than our academic programming, students are invited to engage in co-curricular activities, which are too numerous to mention. Our graduates with a Master of Social Work or MSW have a foundation or a generalist knowledge for working with individuals, families, and systems. We provide ethical and innovative practice knowledge as well as skills. This is a professional program. And we expect that our generalist graduates will be able to work in any number of settings once they have left the faculty. The way I think about it is that we offer you a toolbox with a number of different compartments that students will be filling as part of their learning experience. Graduate study is self-directed learning. And there is no one program that can offer all the knowledge, all the skills, all the experiences that we will need to work with every single potential client or population. What that requires is that applicants to our program seriously consider the kind of work you might want to do or think you might want to do before you apply to a graduate program. Because once you're in the program, you will be deciding which is the knowledge and skills necessary to do that particular kind of work. That also means that when our graduates are leaving this program, no two have exactly the same toolbox with exactly the same skills. You are building the expertise in the program to help you do the kind of work that is important to you. There are three options for our MSW program. So if you have a 4-year undergraduate degree with at least 3 full credits in social sciences, you'd be considered for our 2-year MSW full-time. The MSW with advanced standing is for those applicants who have a Bachelor of Social Work or BSW, and those who are interested in working with Indigenous communities, particularly with trauma and resiliency, would be applying to our 2-year MSW ITR. That program considers applicants both with a BSW and with a Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science degree. For our 2-year program, the first year, the courses are a foundational introduction to social work. Social work policy and social work welfare is an introduction to the regulations and the lay of the land in which social workers and their clients will be existing. We have to understand immigration policy if we're going to be working with immigrant populations. We have to understand healthcare policy if we might be working in a hospital or healthcare setting. Elements of Social Work Practice and Social Work Lab is a course where we start to build the grounding skills in gathering information and building relationship with clients. Say, for example, somebody somewhere suspects that a 5-year-old may have been sexually abused. How do I, as a social worker, prepare myself for the kind of information that may come from an interview in this case? How do I prepare to engage with a 5-year-old who will never have met me before? How do I ensure that the conversation I have with this 5-year-old doesn't re-traumatize them if they have been sexually abused? And if the abuse never happened, how do I ensure that the questions I ask don't suggest or invite any kind of idea that this happened when it didn't really? Social workers have to think about the kinds of questions we ask, when we ask them, how we ask them, and be prepared for the impact of our engagement with clients. How do we build trust with somebody who may be sharing with us intimate details of their life and their experience? And keeping in mind, in a situation like this, I would have to be very mindful that at the end of the day, the information I gather will have to stand up in a court of law under cross-examination from a defense attorney. A lot of information to consider even before I've met this client. Elements and social work practice lab is where students work with an experienced social worker over the course of a full day in the first semester, learning how to do just that. The assessment in this course involves students interacting in a simulated interview with an actor where they're evaluated not by their instructor, but by another instructor in the course. The first year courses also include social work theory and social work with groups. As we move into the winter, coursework will involve understanding organizations and how we interact with communities, and also how we work in a more directed way with individuals and families. The Research for Evidence-Based Social Work Practice course is a core one in our program. This is where students start to look at the research and the evidence and develop the skill set to be critical of the evidence. If somebody somewhere has published a study suggesting that there's a brand new intervention that has a cure for autism, there would be a lot of people who would be very excited. But as social workers, we have to be able to look at the evidence, even if it's coming from a peer review journal, and be critical to understand that if this study was done in Sweden on 5 families that are all upper middle class, will this result apply to my client in Thunder Bay, Ontario, who is Indigenous? And if not, why? So we have to learn to be critical of how is the study conducted, under what circumstances, and will it apply to my client? These are the ways we start to understand the research so that we can apply it to practice. In the first year of the MSW program, the practicum experience runs from January through May. And this is where students are going out to a social service organization, building direct practice experience under the supervision of an experienced social worker. The practicum may also be taken in the summer session, but if students choose that option, they would also have to take the social work practice with the individuals and families in the summer session, as those 2 courses are linked. As we come close to the end of the first year, usually around February, students are invited to consider, now that they've had some experience in social work classes and practicum, to consider what area of social work might they want to focus on for the second year. We have 5 fields of study, and they're listed here: children and their families, gerontology, human services management and leadership, mental health and health, and social justice and diversity. The fields of study are a way for students to focus their knowledge building in a particular area of social work, and it will prepare them to do particular work. These fields are not exclusive. So for example, a student in children and their families who's interested in mental health and health may do a placement in children's mental health. So there would be incredible crossover from our specializations. Children and their families is our first specialization, and it was developed or built on an ecological developmental model. We know that we can't understand young children if we don't have some understanding of their families and of the social context in which they live. The coursework helps to build that understanding of working with children, but also what practice with families looks like, and supporting our students in understanding the ever-changing face of the Canadian family. There also is a policy course in this area, so students are prepared for the regulations that will govern the area in which they work. And the research course in the second year helps students to focus on research and evidence in their particular area of social work. Typically, the assignments will invite students to apply research to practice. So it could be an assignment, for example, like has been used in the past, where students are invited to evaluate some intervention that is currently being used at their practicum site. For example, a student might be looking at cognitive behavioral therapy. How does that work for a 7-year-old versus a 14-year-old? Are there circumstances where it might apply or not apply? Students gather the research and the evidence and apply it to real-life examples from their practice experience. Each of the specializations offer 4 core courses, which you'll see listed on the left of your screen, and then 2 electives, which students can take from a range of courses within their specialization, within another specialization or another field of study, or they can take those courses from a listing of free electives that are available in the course schedule or the timetable. The practicum in year 2 goes from September through April, and it is a full year experience, 3 days a week. Gerontology. This specialization focuses on working with seniors or older populations. What we know from the latest Canadian census, Stats Canada is telling us that for the first time ever, there are more seniors or older Canadians than there are children and youth in our society. This has a huge implication for our population, but also for social workers who work with people. Understanding principles of aging, what it means to be 55 versus being 65 or 75. Social work and aging, the integrated policy and practice helps us to understand the guidelines and regulations. In particular, understanding what are the resources and supports that are available in our society for seniors, but also for family members and caregivers who may be involved in supporting seniors. If you are enrolled in the gerontology specialization, you'd be automatically enrolled in a course called Supportive and Palliative Care Across the Life course. Human Services Management and Leadership. This is our newest field of study. And this field was developed in response to feedback from our MSW graduates who were telling us that within 5 years they were being encouraged, sometimes pushed into management positions. And some of them weren't sure that they had the information or the skills to do that particular kind of work. So this field was developed to address that need. In particular, to help our students who we know are going to be faced with questions like, how do you put together a budget for an organization? How do you support your staff and lead a team to make sure that they're prepared for the hard work that they do Monday to Friday, but then they actually want to come back next week to do it all again? In a time of austerity, when we know that budgets are being cut and funding sources are becoming scarce, how do we actually do fundraising in organizations? These are the kinds of skills and experiences that are built in this specialization or field of study. There is a minimum of 2 years experience required to apply to this field of study, in recognition that you really have to be able to have done the work and understand the work in order to lead others doing this work. The image that you'll see on the screen is of one of our graduates, Natisha Masakwai, who is the Executive Director of Women's Health and Women's Hands, the only community health organization in North America that specifically addresses the needs of racialized women. Mental health and health. This field of study has a couple of options, but the core mission of mental health and health is to provide the understanding and the ability to support individuals and communities who are facing health or mental health challenges and to support understanding of wellness in our current context. If you're in the field of mental health and health, you could focus on both, in which case the core courses would include an introduction to practice in mental health and practice in health. The research for evidence-based practice that you see with a star in all of the fields of study is a course that students in advanced standing would take, but students in the 2-year program would have taken in the first year of study. Students in this field of study can also focus on mental health almost exclusively. And there would be an understanding in the biopsychosocial model. How do we even define mental health and mental wellness versus mental illness in our contemporary society? What are the means by which we even identify if somebody's having challenges with their mental health? The students in this field would be taking the advanced social work practice in mental health, where they would focus more clearly and in a delineated way on mental health interventions. They'd also be looking very closely at what the research and evidence tells us about what works and doesn't work in particular areas. Students can also choose to focus on health. In this area, students would be looking at the physical impact on functioning and existing in society. So what happens if somebody in our society breaks a leg versus has an ongoing chronic health situation? We like to think that with socialized healthcare in Canada, everybody has access, but is that really true? How does that work? Does geography play in any way? Do individuals in rural communities have the same access to quality healthcare as those in urban centers? And what might be the impact if you're a social worker working in a smaller community versus in a metropolitan area? Social justice and diversity. This field of study doesn't have a particular target population, but rather is looking at marginalization and oppression big picture. So what does it mean to be a racialized person in Canadian society today? What does it mean to be an Indigenous person? What are the laws and regulations? And we know there's a very clear framework that sets out who's Indigenous and who's not. What are the benefits and what are the challenges of the system that we have? This specialization is also paying attention to globalization and the very real impact that world events have on our Canadian society. In social justice and diversity, students can often be challenged by the very complex nature of working with human beings and systems that are dynamic and ever-changing. A little bit more about our practicum process. Students in year 2 have access to a secure website where they would see all of the partner organizations and practicum opportunities or offerings in their field of study. So for example, students in social justice and diversity would see all of the practicum opportunities that have been designated for social justice and diversity. And this designation is made by the field instructors or the social workers in the field who are offering the practicum opportunity. The student would then pick 5 that they're interested in, and a computer matches to 2 for interviews. Students participate in these interviews, and we invite them to have two-way dialogue with their potential field instructor. A student will be asked questions to see if, from the field instructor's perspective, if that student would be a good fit for the learning that the site is offering. We also invite students to ask questions to have an understanding of, might this learning be a good fit for my goals and what I'm hoping to take away from the experience? Only when both the student and the field instructor say yes, is there a match? If there's a no to both of those interviews, the student goes back into the pool for more interviews. The MSWITR, or Indigenous Trauma and Resilience, is a new and special field of study developed here at the faculty in partnership with the Ontario Federation of Indigenous Friendship Centres and the Middleton Moss Institute. And the inception was pretty unique. You'll see on your screen a picture of Jane Middleton Moss, an instructor and community worker who has been pioneering work in this area for over 4 decades. And the story that we're told is that an Indigenous elder in the community had a dream that there was a need for a very specific program to support the development and the passing on of Indigenous knowledge to train workers who would be able to, in a culturally competent and sensitive way, work with Indigenous communities. She took this dream to the OFIFC, and at the same time, this faculty had been working to see how we could extend our support to Indigenous communities. And our dean and associate dean at the time had approached the OFIFC, who then approached Jane Middleton Moss as somebody with incredible experience in this area. This field of study was developed as a partnership, really recognizing that to support Indigenous communities, there has to be Indigenous voice and Indigenous contribution to the learning and the valuing of knowledge. This field of study supports students in developing the understanding of the historical and multi-generational nature of trauma. It also uses the medicine wheel as a model, and the understanding of Indigenous experience is very different in that it takes a global context. Indigeneity is understood not just in a North American context, but in a global context. So we have students in this field of study who may be native to North America. We also have students who are native to South America, and they're looking at Indigenous experience from a South American perspective. We have students from the continent of Africa who are understanding indigeneity through that lens. In this way, historical trauma is understood, and the experience and the knowledge is built based on the student's context, which also supports them to be able to work in their home community in a culturally appropriate way. Students with a Bachelor of Social Work and with a 4-year undergraduate degree or a Bachelor of Arts will both be required to spend 2 years in this field of study. Students with the BSW, however, are exempted from the Social Policy and Social Welfare in the Canadian Context course. Trauma impacts different communities in different ways. And so some of the work or some of the knowledge students might be looking at with instructors in this field of study would be, how are the ways trauma has informed community experiences, but also the building of capacity? What organizations exist that even understand this community and the trauma they've experienced? The Research for Evidence-Based Social Work Practice looks at knowledge and research through an Indigenous lens. What does it mean to even develop new knowledge if you're thinking from an Indigenous context? The first year of this 2-year program involves a practicum where students would be working in a community developing an understanding of trauma and resiliency. As students move into the second year, the practicum is split into 2 different parts. The first 40-hour part would be an intervention where the student accompanies an instructor into a community that has specifically requested help and supports an experienced instructor in that work. The rest of the practicum, which would be around 410 hours, includes the students either working with an organization in the community or an organization that is Indigenous specific focused. The coursework in this field of study is offered under a hybrid model where students participate in 5 6-day intensives which run from Sunday through Friday, full days. The other courses are then offered across the semesters through an online or web-based model. This allows students to continue to live in their home communities all across Canada, coming into the faculty for those 1-week intensives each semester. There's also the option for students to participate in the practicum experiences in their home community. We have a number of collaborative specializations and combined programs. The combined programs offer students the ability to develop knowledge and experience in a particular area where we know there's an intersection with social work and, for example, law. So the JD-MSW is an opportunity for students to get both a Master of Social Work and a Juris Doctor or a law degree at the same time. And the way it works is that students would be taking courses in both faculties. So for example, with the JD-MSW, students would come to law for the first year, then come to social work for the second year, and go back and forth by taking courses in both for years 3 and 4. If you did it consecutively, it'd be 2 years for the MSW and 3 years for the law degree. Doing it combined allows students to shave off 1 year. The application process is a little bit different for combined programs, so you'd be applying to both programs separately, and the requirements at law are a little different than they are at social work. Each faculty makes its own decision, and if the student is admitted to both, then they're permitted to do it on a combined basis. The Masters of Health Science and MSW is an opportunity for students who are interested in health administration to learn about people through the MSW, but then also learn about health systems and healthcare administration through the Masters of Health Science, and it also shaves off a year. Same rules apply, you apply separately, and if you're admitted to both, then the student does it in a combined program. The collaborative specializations are an opportunity to develop knowledge that is complementary to social work, but may not be focused on in depth in social work. For example, addiction studies. To take the collaborative specialization in addiction studies, students typically just have to sign up. We invite that you check with each of the units offering the collaborative specialization to see if they have other specific requirements. So for example, there may be a separate application process. There are links on our website so that you can find out how many courses are required and also if there's an application process. Addiction studies will require 1 course, so students in second year could typically use one of their electives to complete that specialization. Another collaborative may require more courses, so it is important that you do your research in advance. If you are thinking about a collaborative program and you're applying to the 2-year MSW program, you do not need to indicate at the time of application. However, if you're applying to the MSW with advanced standing, you will need to indicate that as part of your application. And of course, lots of support services here at the faculty at the university. We have great faculty advisors and a registrar and administrative team who offer incredible support and assistance. We're very fortunate to have an on-site writing center here in our building. You do have to make an appointment in advance. They will not write your paper for you. But students who have submitted their work to the writing center have indicated to us that they find it very helpful and it is very supportive in the learning process. We work very closely with accessibility services here at the University of Toronto to ensure that students who have a diagnosed disability have access to all of the accommodation that they require. And we also partner quite a bit with First Nations House at the University of Toronto, which shares information and opportunities to build knowledge and experience on First Nations, Indigenous, and Inuit experience here in Toronto and in Canada. So our deadline dates for the 2-year MSW and the MSW with advanced standing programs, we suggest you start the process, which is all online, by November 1st. November 28th will be the final date to submit the online application fee and transcripts for this year's admission cycle. December 11th will be the last date to get all of your supporting documentation into our office. And now I'm going to hand it over to Angela, who's going to share a bit more information about admission requirements.
Thank you so much, Terry. Okay, so as Terry mentioned, I'm going to talk about the different streams and the specific admission requirements. So to be eligible for the 2-year MSW full-time program, you need an appropriate bachelor's degree from a recognized university. So it could be a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Commerce degree, and 4 years, typically 20 full credit courses from your undergraduate university. our 120 credits from some institutions. You need to have a mid-B average in your final year of full-time study or equivalent, specifically looking at senior level courses, so 300 or 400, or third or fourth year level courses. If your university does not require senior level courses, then the GPA will be based on your final year of full-time study or equivalent. We require 3 full credit courses in the social sciences, to include a half credit course in research methodology. And in the research methodology course, a mid-B average is strongly recommended. Now let's backtrack. What is a social science? A social science, the typical social sciences are psychology, sociology, political science, anthropology, economics. Any discipline that is designated by your home university as a social science, we will allow. There are some disciplines that have a crossover. They might be deemed as a humanities or a social science. And if that's the case, we'll certainly count that as a social science. Now, the research requirement, this is a key requirement. On our website, we have a document under our admissions website link titled Acceptable Research Courses, and it lists courses across the country that we have deemed as being acceptable in meeting our research requirement, and we're going to put the link in the chat window when we open up the chat. So you might want to check your transcripts to see if the course you've taken or plan to take is on the listing. If you've taken a course and it's not on the list, don't worry. Maybe it just hasn't come across our desk. So send us an email message and include the course name, where, and also a brief course description. We will review it and determine if it's acceptable or not, if it will be added to the listing. In some cases, we might actually ask you to provide the full course outline and required reading list. So that's about the research methods course. I do want to stress, though, that it is a key requirement. So if you have a strong GPA and the research course you've taken is not at the mid-B, your chances of admission are lessened, and we would strongly encourage you to take another course to upgrade the research mark. Now, experience in the social services is not a requirement, but it is strongly recommended. And then the English language proficiency applies to individuals educated outside of Canada and the US, where the language of instruction and the examination was not English. And that applies to anyone out there. On our website and also in our program booklet, we do list all of the acceptable test scores, such as TOEFL, the IELTS, MILAB, etc. Admission requirements for the MSW program with advanced standing. Here, in order to be eligible for this program, you do need to have a Bachelor of Social Work degree from a recognized university. It must be accredited by if your BSW is from within Canada. It has to be accredited by the Canadian Association for Social Work Education. And if your BSW is from the US, it has to be accredited by the Council on Social Work Education. If your BSW degree is from overseas, it's not a given. We will recognize it as par with a BSW here in Canada. You can formally apply. We will do a full review of your academic transcripts and also look at the courses you've taken, specifically in social work, and your practicum. Your total practicum hours would need to total 700 hours. Here, the grade requirement is a little different than the 2-year program. You need a mid-B average in your final year of full-time study or equivalent. We're not looking at senior level courses. The research requirement is exactly the same as the 2-year, where you need a half credit course. And again, a mid-B is strongly recommended. Experience in the social services is strongly recommended. The English language proficiency, exactly the same as the 2-year, and the test scores are all on our website and in the program booklet. Here, advanced standing applicants will need to choose their field of study, formerly known as specialization, on the online application and in the MSW program application form. You'll have a choice of 5. You can only choose one, and whichever one you choose on the SGS online application form, it should match what you choose on the MSW program application form. Also for advanced standing, you can choose to apply for full-time studies or part-time studies. On the SGS online application, you can only choose one, either full-time or part-time. And then on the MSW program application form, you can indicate your preference for being considered for full-time as your first choice and part-time as your second choice, or vice versa. So how to apply? You cannot apply yet. The online application, that is the link, and we will also put it in the chat window a little later. We do anticipate that the online application will open up usually around the third week into September. If you've previously applied to the School of Graduate Studies here at U of T, you would be a returning applicant, so you can use your applicant number and password. If you've never applied to the School of Graduate Studies, you would be a brand new applicant, and there are two different links to click on. In terms of the online application, it allows you to start the process and save it as a draft. You don't need to finish it in one shot. So when you do eventually log on, you'll be asked to put in your personal information, your name, mailing address, etc. For your name, you do need to ensure that your given name that you note down on the online application is your official legal name that will match the transcripts that come in. You don't put down a nickname on the online application. If you do that, when the official transcripts come in and they're under your official given name, we won't be able to match that up. So just want to point that out. So the other piece that you'll add on to your online application will be your academic information. Here you will list all colleges and universities that you attended. Even if you did not complete the program, even if you just took a course, you still need to list down all of your academic history. And then it will ask you to provide us with the names of 3 references, or 3 referees, and you'll need to provide full contact information. So their first and last name, the organization they are affiliated with, the relationship to applicant, their phone number, and if they have a valid email address, you will indicate that as well. If they have a valid email address, you then triple check your application. When you're ready to finalize your online application, you submit payment, because once you pay, you can't make changes to the online application. Now, if your referees don't have a valid email address, maybe only one has a valid email and the other 2 do not, you can still use them as a reference. However, you can't provide us with their email address. They will need to submit the reference form in the traditional format, whereby you send them the reference template, which is available from our website. They in turn will complete the reference form and submit it to us offline. They would typically mail it in directly to the faculty, or they can give it to you in a signed sealed envelope, and you in turn would submit it to us. The key thing is that anything coming in offline must be received in a signed sealed envelope. The 3 email addresses that are currently not accepted by the system are what's noted on screen: Yahoo, Hotmail, or Gmail extensions. Everything else is currently acceptable. So what's required to apply? So the online application, we've covered that, and the application fee. At this point, I don't know what the fee will be for fall 2018. That should be announced again once the online application opens up. You are required to submit scanned transcripts from all colleges and universities attended. So when you noted down your academic history and put down the universities and colleges you attended, it will actually, on your online application, you'll see an icon for each institution you noted down. You are required to scan a transcript and upload it to the site. We'll talk more about official transcripts in a couple of minutes. So we'll talk about the official transcripts now. You are required to submit one official transcript from all colleges and universities that you have attended. The official transcript can be sent directly from the institution to the Faculty of Social Work, or it can be given to you, sent to your home, and you in turn would submit it to us either in person or forward it to us via mail. If you're doing that, my advice would be have the institution mail it directly to the Factor-Inwentash Faculty of Social Work. When we receive your official transcript, we will go online to your online application and indicate that it has been received. It typically takes anywhere from 5 to 10 business days for transcripts to be received from the institution. If it's taking longer than 2 weeks, you should definitely be following up with us to make sure that it hasn't gone astray or maybe your order got misplaced, because transcripts typically take, as I said, 2 weeks. What else is required? You are going to be required to submit 3 references. So all applicants need to submit 1 academic reference from a university course instructor. Your second reference would be from a work or volunteer-related reference. Your third reference, so for our 2-year applicants, it can be a second from either of the 2 sources noted on screen. It could be a second academic or a second work or volunteer-related reference. For applicants applying with the advanced standing, your third reference must be from the practicum instructor or faculty practicum liaison if your BSW degree is in progress or was awarded within the last 2 years. If you've already graduated, you certainly can provide that reference from your current employer. Now, what to do if you're doing a BSW degree starting fall of 2017 and your practicum does not start until the winter or spring of 2018, you can't provide this reference. Not to worry, you can certainly substitute this reference with another work or volunteer related reference. If you're going this route, we strongly encourage that you include a cover letter with your resume to explain your choice of references. The MSW program application form. And all of our templates that are currently on our website are for fall 2017. The new templates for fall 2018 will be posted by end of August. So the MSW program application form here, again, we're asking you for some information, but the key piece we want to bring to your attention is that there is a question asking you to identify the course you have taken or plan to take that meets the research requirement. If you've taken multiple courses, put down the one in which you received the highest grade. If you've taken a couple of courses but your grade was not as strong and you plan to take another course, then indicate I plan to take course XYZ at University XYZ and the course will be done January 2018 or whatever the case might be. It is a key piece, so we really want you to pay special attention to the research requirement. The resume. This is your selling feature. I cannot stress this enough. There is no page limit to the resume. Your resume should be as detailed as possible. For each experience, work or volunteer or internship, you need to include the date, both month and year, and the total number of hours for each experience. If you do not include this information, it will lessen your chances of admission. These are some of the headings that can be on your resume. If you have other headings that apply, by all means include them. Do not sell yourself short. You must include a detailed resume, month and year, and total hours. Very, very important. The written statement. So the questions currently in the program booklet and on the website are for fall 2017. We do not anticipate significant changes to the questions, but again, and if there are changes, it will be updated in late August. We know you're applying to multiple programs. We strongly encourage that you keep your options open and apply to multiple programs. However, when you're submitting the written statement, you do need to address the specific questions that our committee has put together for you to respond to. So please pay careful attention to that, and also to the word count. Each question should be no more than 500 words per question. The MSW program advanced standing applicants, they need to submit one additional piece, which is the field practicum experience. Here you're going to tell us about your different practicum placements in your BSW degree. If you've done a 4-year BSW, chances are you'll have 2 settings. If you've done a 4-year BSW where the practicum is usually done as a block at the end, you'll only have 1, and that's fine. If you're doing, again, back to my example, the BSW and your practicum doesn't happen until the end of the program, you don't have the information, you still are required to upload something to the site. Even if you say, I plan to do my practicum placement at agency XYZ and these are the dates, that's enough for now. And when you have more information, you can email that information directly to the admissions email account, because after the deadline date of the documents, you won't be able to submit any additional information on that site. Okay, what's required? We're going to just recap for the 2-year in the Advanced Standing Program, the SGS online application and fee, your scanned transcripts, official transcripts that you're mailing directly to the Factor-Inwentash Faculty of Social Work or dropping off in person, 3 reference forms, the MSW program application form, a very detailed resume, the field practicum experience, and the written statement addressing our 5 questions. Deadline dates for the ITR. So this program has an earlier deadline date. We're recommending that you apply and start that online application by October the 17th. It's just a suggested early deadline date to ensure you give your referees lots of lead time. The final date to do your online application is November 1st, and the supporting documentation will be due on November the 15th. The time stamp is always 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So to be eligible for the MSW ITR, you need an appropriate bachelor's degree. So again, it can be a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Social Work degree. It is a 2-year program regardless of degree. The grade requirement is similar to the 2-year MSW, where you need a mid-B average in your final year of full-time study or equivalent, specifically looking at senior level courses, and a mid-B is a 73% or better, or 3.0 or a straight B. 3 full courses in the social sciences. Again, the social sciences typically cover anthropology, economics, political science, psychology, sociology, social work. And then you need the half-credit course in research methodology. Again, we're stressing that a mid-B is strongly recommended. Here there is an requirement to have some experience. A minimum of 3 years of work experience in the social service, Indigenous services sector field is required. And again, the English language proficiency, similar to the 2-year in the advanced standing. If you apply for the MSW ITR and make it past the first round, you will be asked to participate in either an in-person or Skype interview, which will happen in early February, and that you'll get details about that usually in January. And the interview is typically about 20 minutes, and once you have the interview, decisions are usually sent out to applicants within 2 to 3 weeks. And again, we're stressing it is a 2-year full-time program for all applicants, including those who have a Bachelor of Social Work degree. How to apply? Exactly the same thing in terms of the link. The apply.sgs.utoronto.ca will open up usually 3rd week in September. You need to be, again, prepared to submit your personal and academic information and the names of your referees. The same thing applies in terms of the email extensions for your referees that are not accepted. So Yahoo, Hotmail, or Gmail. Submit your payment and be aware of those deadline dates. So what's required for the ITR? Again, the online application and application fee. You'll need to submit scanned transcripts from colleges and universities that you have attended, including CSHAP. And you'll need to submit official transcripts, just like the 2-year of the advanced standing program. You'll need to submit 2 references, and here you have a choice. You can choose which 2 individuals you're going to connect with for references. So it can be an academic from a university course instructor. It can be a work volunteer setting or someone from your practicum, the practicum instructor or supervisor, traditional teacher, mentor, or professional colleague. You can decide who your referees will be. The resume. So here the resume is significantly, it's a little different than the 2-year and the advanced standing instructions, and these detailed instructions are available in the program booklet and on our website. So they really want you to list all of this information. So again, all of your education, including incomplete or in-progress degrees, all of your employment, volunteer work, placement opportunities. Again, you need to include the month and year and the total hours for each experience. They want you to emphasize any work you might have in psychology, social work, addictions, etc. It's basically what you see on screen. If you have any research experience, if you've done a thesis, been involved in research projects, publications, etc., all of that needs to be on your resume. the written statement. So the questions for the MSW-IT are slightly different than the 2-year and the advanced standing, but the same thing goes. We want you to address the 5 questions that our committee has put forward, and we are allowing applicants, if they so choose, to apply to the MSW-ITR and the 2-year program or the MSW program with advanced standing. You do need to submit 2 separate application fees, but it's an option if you're interested in that route. This is our mailing address. This is the address that all official transcripts need to go to. If they don't go to this address and maybe go to admissions and awards at the undergraduate level, we may not get your transcripts from anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So please stress, this is the address that must be noted on all transcripts coming in and all references coming in offline.
Profiles in Social Work is our faculty's podcast series. Each episode features a graduate of our faculty talking about their experience there, but also the kind of work that they do now. As I'm sure you've already gotten a sense, social work is a very broad and far-reaching field, and we have graduates from as far back as 1961 and as recently as 2013 talking about the kind of work that they do with children, families, communities, in government, internationally, locally. You can find it on our faculty website and also through our page on Facebook.
If you have any questions about your application or the admission requirements, you can reach me at the admissions email account.
Yes, thank you so much for considering social work and for spending the time with us today. We hope that you continue to be interested in our faculty and our programs. Feel free to email either Angela or me, Terry, at any point if you have questions ongoing. We wish you the best.